It's all too easy to be a hater these days, sitting in your pants in front of the TV shouting like an angry old man at characters ruining your favourite TV shows. The spectrum of character hatred is usually a broad one too, taking into account their politics, trivial annoyances and outright evil, and it almost feels like they're doing it on purpose to make sure you talk about them online. So, in order to ease our collective suffering, we've put the worst offenders into a list. I'm Ben from Whatculture, and here are the 10 most hated characters in TV history. Number 10. Peppa Pig. That's right, cartoon characters designed for children are not off limits here. The problem with Peppa Pig isn't actually the show. The problem is with the pig herself. She is the rudest, most obnoxious little piglet you'll ever have the displeasure of watching. She's sarcastic and incredibly insolent, cruelly mocking her father's weight and mercilessly teasing her toddler brother, and she gets away with it every single time. And to top it all off, she giggles incessantly, because the insufferable little pork scratching also finds herself endlessly amusing. But then maybe you would too if you resembled a cross between a hairdryer and a set of male genitalia. Number 9. Ted Mosby, How I Met Your Mother. When How I Met Your Mother first aired in 2005, the concept was fresh and innovative. 9 years later, all goodwill that the show, and especially Ted Mosby, had was in tatters. Ted, intended to be a lovelorn romantic on the lookout for Miss Right, had very quickly become the kind of self-obsessed bore you just want to slap. He'd treat his girlfriends badly, then whine about how he could never find anyone. He'd mope about wanting to fall in love and get married, then go out on the pull with his egotistical wank pheasant of a friend, Barney, treating women like pieces of meat, all the while demanding love from close friend Robin, despite them not being a good fit. Number 8. Janice Soprano, The Sopranos. There are few characters in television who have been more definitively despicable than Janice Soprano, Tony's older sister. She's innately selfish, she's duplicitous, she's volatile and doesn't listen to dissenting opinions. And worse, Janice claims benefits for disabilities she doesn't suffer, wiggles her way into relationships with wealthy, powerful men as a way of appropriating influence, and to cap it all off, she's got that ugly, violent soprano temper. I suppose you could call her a shit character for wankers. Hashtag shit character for wankers. Number 7. Laurie Grimes, The Walking Dead. Until her violent and traumatic departure in Season 3, Laurie Grimes was almost certainly the most detested character in The Walking Dead, and it wasn't even intentional. Written as a strong, generous, and loving mother and wife, her persona was wildly at odds with her actions, like shacking up with her dead husband's best friend before he was even cold. Or dead. And it didn't help that most people are Team Rick, as Laurie's habit of taking Rick to task and questioning his decisions made her appear unreasonable to an audience now set on disliking her. Number 6. Wesley Crusher, Star Trek The Next Generation. You could scroll online through the hundreds and hundreds of threads for why the Doctor's son was so despised, or we could just ask Will Wheaton himself. He's of the opinion, and he's not wrong, that the writing was to blame, that Star Trek The Next Generation writers simply didn't know what to do with his character once he'd been introduced, and didn't understand how to make Wesley relatable to fans of the show at all.
Shut up, Wesley!
Number 5. Joffrey Baratheon, Game of Thrones. In short, Joffrey Baratheon is a psychopath. Aged a few years over the younger version in George R.R. Martin's original novels, the difference between the Joffrey of A Song of Ice and Fire and the Joffrey of Game of Thrones is more than just height and shoe size. TV Joffrey is pretty much an adult. He isn't constrained by his mother any more than he is by his conscience, and represents a true monster, not just one in the making. You really get the sense that were he not a king, he'd be stalking the streets of King's Landing as a rapacious serial killer. Number 4. The Sixth Doctor, Doctor Who. Waspish, mean-spirited, pompous and cold, the Sixth Doctor was a far cry from the cheerful, clear-eyed optimism of the Fifth or the playfully gonzo eccentricity of the Fourth. To make matters worse, he dressed in the most flamboyantly bizarre clothing. He was a preening, uptight, grouchy harlequinade of a man. The colours of his coat and trousers a weird counterpart to his cranky, obnoxious persona. Baker's gone on record as saying that he was never given the chance to prove that there was more to the Sixth Doctor than initial appearances suggested. That is, assuming anyone would want to see more of him. Number 3. Skyler White, Breaking Bad. To be fair to Skyler White, she does the best she can with a husband who's made her life a nightmare. And like all similarly much maligned women, she's taken to task for getting in the way of her husband's cool, dangerous, anti-heroic lifestyle. And for that, we hate her. Now, to hate a character is fine, but the hate for Skyler was so vindictive, trollish in almost all aspects, that actress Anna Gunn received personal abuse, death threats, and that new head of the online troll hydra Rape threats. Not cool, internet. Number 2. Ramsay Bolton, Game of Thrones. Over the course of decades, TV has thrown some of the worst excesses of humanity at us in shows about mass murderers, assassins, genocide, and conservative politics. And then there's Game of Thrones, the show that collects enough of these grim terrors together to form a sort of horrifying Hall of Fame-like shit show. A torturing rapist and mass murderer, Ramsay is essentially a violent serial killer in a position of power. He brutalizes others for his own amusement, eyes lighting up whenever the opportunity to humiliate or mutilate anyone arises, and he was wonderfully, infinitely hateable. Number 1. Scrappy Doo, Scooby-Doo. Oh, you better believe number 1 is a cartoon character. Back to the kids' shows. It was 1979, and after a decade of high ratings over 3 separate animated TV vehicles, the Scooby-Doo format was struggling. Under threat of cancellation from ABC, Hanna-Barbera retooled the concept to include a new character, Scrappy Doo. Unfortunately, the long and short of it is Scrappy Doo is an arse. He was the odious preteen kid, the insufferable loudmouth, and a monumental, detestable scrotum. So hated was he that when the movies came around, he was reimagined as a megalomaniac villain, and not one person claimed their childhood had been ruined. And that's our list. Do you have a character that you loathe more than anyone on this list? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. I'm Ben from Whatculture, and thanks for watching.